The following WCIA3 Weather Special Presentation is brought to you by Clay Dooley Tire and Auto, Tapman's Towing, and Bryant Industries. This is Weathering the Storm on WCIA3.
Hello and welcome to Weathering the Storm. I'm Chief Meteorologist Kevin Laddie, along with meteorologists Jacob Dickey, Adam Sherinsky, and Seth Bonoff. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be preparing you for the upcoming severe weather season.
We'll learn more about what to do if you are caught in your car during a flood and what things you should grab before a tornado.
And with recent hailstorms, we take a look at what you should do the next time your house is hit by hail.
Also, a look back at the Taylorville tornado, which will have its 5-year anniversary later this year.
And we're going to spin the weather wheel to debut a cool new feature we call Reality Weather that will bring the weather to life. But first, let's talk about wind turbines and the interference that those are causing with Doppler radar. As a result, the Weather Service is asking for your help so they can better see what's going on with storms. A push for more green energy across Illinois has wind farms popping up everywhere. But for meteorologists, some wind farms are creating a challenge when it comes to reading Doppler radar. Take a look at this radar example in northern Macon County taken just this week. That isn't rain, it's turbulence being picked up by the Doppler, causing this false return, making it look like there's a storm when in fact there isn't. So what really causes this? Okay, so here's the problem. We've got the Doppler radar. It's normally sitting on a radar beam that's hitting precipitation, hailstones. And now we've got wind turbines spinning around in parts of central Illinois. It's creating a turbulence above those wind turbines. And then we get this false radar data that's returned back. And that's the stuff that we're seeing on radar that actually is not a storm. James Otten, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Lincoln, explains how these turbines are impacting the radar.
Especially when they're closer to the radar. As they're further away, we don't see the impact because the radar beam's already well above the wind farm itself and the turbulence that it generates. But as they're closer in, such as like Macon County, especially Logan County, DeWitt, McLean, Tazewell, that's where the disruption really is the greatest, and that's where we want to focus and put more spotters in those areas so they can tell us what's going on in those areas we can't see.
Now, a spotter is someone trained to see what's going on at ground level of a storm. Then that info can be relayed back to the National Weather Service for faster and better warnings. Tim Wright has his eyes on the storms. He's a storm spotter in Macon County.
It's really important to have the individuals out on the streets. Storm spotters can actually go out, position themselves safely, and we can see the storm actually before it affects in a community.
Each spring they conduct spotter training classes for free to get those eyes on the storms. But it's not just about knowing the difference between a wall cloud and a shelf cloud.
We want them to be safe while they're doing this because they're volunteers, they're not getting paid, but we want them to provide good information because their information can lead to a better response.
Just a few more spotter training classes remain for this year. If you're interested, head to our website, WCIA.com, for a list to see how you can attend. 5 years ago, one town sent out storm spotters ahead of what became one of the biggest disasters they've ever faced. Meteorologist Jacob Dickey went to Taylorville to hear more about that day.
Started it like any other day. Got my squad car, went out to work the road.
I was off. I worked in the yard all day because it was unseasonably warm.
And we ended up hearing that there was some severe weather and they were calling for weather spotters.
And that's when we did what we call a station coverage page, and we paged all the members to let them know something was coming and that they need to come to the firehouse. So.
And at that point, when the severe weather had started, I was heading out to 48 and the hail started, so I took cover.
And kind of during the tornado and for maybe the first 2 minutes after, it was just dead silence. It was kind of eerie, even in the firehouse, and that's when the dispatcher called and said, I have a list of calls pending.
Every time that the radio went off, it was the tornado just hit here, the tornado just hit here.
You could hear it, I mean, it sounded like a faint train on that side of town.
There were a lot of houses damaged, a lot of people that were, displaced because of it, which was heartbreaking. But I mean, our city really came together and it made me know I was in the right place.
Our primary engine that night was engine 1. And on that engine was one of our firemen. The very first call that we got was for the house next to his house, and they actually said his name. So he was out there working to find these people trapped in a house and saw his house. And he took a minute or two and then just went right back to work. Even though his whole home and his life was destroyed at that period of time, he continued to go help everyone else.
You had trees down, you had trees in through houses and roofs and everything. We were very lucky on having no fatalities. I mean, that was in itself a complete miracle.
Don't really understand how nobody died, but we were just very, very lucky.
You don't want to rely on luck in severe weather situations, whether it's tornadoes, lightning, or in our next story, flooding that can catch even the most weather-weary off guard.
Flooding may not be the first thing you worry about with severe weather, but underestimating the power of this dangerous event may be a big reason why it's one of nature's deadliest. According to an annual report put together by the National Weather Service, in 2021, flooding was the second leading cause of weather-related deaths behind only the heat. Now, what you might find surprising is that of those flood-related deaths, 55% of them occurred to somebody in a vehicle. Now, I talked to one of the most weather-aware people that I know about a time where an innocent drive on just a normal rainy night turned into a nightmare. That person was my own dad.
It had happened so fast, it was scary. I've never been more scared of a weather event in my life than what I was that night.
That's how my dad described a night 8 years ago, where he and my brother were trying to get my now sister-in-law home before a heavy rainfall, but instead got caught in the middle of it.
There was rain coming, but thought we had plenty of time to get down and back. It was a 15-minute drive, so I thought in half an hour we'll be down and back, no issues at all.
Getting her home was no issue, but the trip back was a different story.
And I'm familiar with the roadway through here, been through it many times in my lifetime. There was some water across the road and thought, we can get through this, it's not that big a deal. So start to drive through it, the van drowns out, the van dies. And you really started to get terrified at that point in time.
There had been just enough water on the road to pose a life-threatening risk.
The water was probably 6 inches, a foot deep. It wasn't real wide, but it was deep. It took us about an hour to make that last 3 miles.
According to the National Weather Service, it takes just 6 inches of water to sweep a person off of their feet or to stall a normal-sized vehicle. And when it comes to a whole foot of water, that's enough to completely stall out most size vehicles and actually start to sweep them down the road. To stay safe in your vehicle in a flooding situation, you'll want to avoid driving in low-lying areas, and if possible, don't drive at night, as it is nearly impossible to know how deep the water is. If your vehicle starts to become submerged in floodwaters, evacuate by getting out from the side windows. But to avoid being put in that situation, turn around, don't drown.
Here at WCIA, we're about to unveil a new tool. It's called Reality Weather. We're going to be showing you weather with a little bit of a different flair, more of a 3D aspect, really immerse you into that. And to kind of kick that off, we want to kind of teach you about some weather things like hail and wind and lightning and tornadoes and flooding. And so we've got the WCIA weather wheel here that we're going to spin, and whenever it lands on, we're going to talk about these individual impacts. And here comes our spin on the weather wheel. Which one of these are we going to highlight first? Let's see, let's show you flooding. So let's talk about how floodwaters can really impact you, whether you're just standing or in a car. So here's what we're talking about, debuting our Reality Weather. So here's the studio you see all the time. Behind me, we've got the water out here on the roadways starting to come up after a very heavy thunderstorm. And there it is, even on our screen, and whoa, a crack opened up. And now the studio is filling up with water. But in all seriousness, flooding is a very big deal. Don't take it for granted. 6 inches of fast-moving water can carry an adult away. 12 inches can carry most cars away, and I'm even talking those large trucks and SUVs. Just 18 to 24 inches will take those floating down the road. It's just a good rule of thumb to always remember, turn around, don't drown. Next on Weathering the Storm, learn about severe weather myths and facts, and which 5 things you should grab when a tornado is approaching. But first, can you answer this weather question? Between 1950 and 2020 in Illinois, which month receives the highest number of tornadoes? We'll have the answer after the break.
Weathering the Storm continues here on WCIA 3.
You may have been told in the past severe weather tips that are supposed to keep you safe. Meteorologist Adam Sherwinski quizzed local residents on what weather tips may be fact or fiction.
Spring is here, and now is the time to work out your severe storm plans and brush up on what severe weather tips can help keep you safe. I decided to ask residents here in Central Illinois on social media and in person if the severe weather info they'd been given in the past was fact or fiction. Fact or fiction, an overpass is a safe spot while on the road during a tornado.
Fiction.
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 And while they're built to be structurally sound, bridges and overpasses are some of the worst spots to be in when seeking shelter for severe weather, especially in the case of a tornado.
The overpass can channel winds as the tornado passes through and blow out those sheltering or hurl debris that could cause serious damage. Fact or fiction, using a phone can be dangerous during a thunderstorm with lots of lightning.
Fiction.
Fact. Fact. That's kind of a trick question. When it comes to corded phones like this one right here, a charge can go through the wiring here and end up on the other end of the phone here. So this one's not quite as safe of an option. But when it comes to your cell phone, as long as you yourself are in a safe space during an intense electrical storm, then it's okay to use. Fact or fiction, you should not take a shower or bath during a thunderstorm.
Fact.
Fact. Fact. It's not recommended to take a shower or a bath during a thunderstorm, and staying away from plumbing in general is a good rule of thumb. Even your faucet with the metal piping and with the water can conduct electricity, making them dangerous during lots of intense lightning.
All right, thanks, Adam. Now let's throw things over to Jacob to spin the weather wheel.
Yeah, we'll give it a round here. Again, we've got on the wheel hail, lightning, flooding, and tornado. Landing on tornadoes, we'll learn more about how tornadoes are rated based on the damage they produce. Now, the National Weather Service will rate tornadoes based on the damage that occurs. We can't look at a tornado that forms in front of us and tell you how strong it is. Now, that might look like a strong tornado. It's the damage left behind that we'll survey to determine just how strong it was. That survey is using the Enhanced Fujita scale, the EF scale, rated from 0 to 5 to tell us the strength of a tornado. An EF0 tornado, that's really weak, under 85 miles an hour. Those are rather common here in Central Illinois. An EF1 tornado has winds up to 110 miles an hour. When we talk about significant tornadoes, those are EF2s and above. 111 to 135 miles an hour is an EF2. EF3 gets us to 165 miles per hour. And then the violent tornadoes, EF4s and 5s, these are very rare, but still can have winds of 200 miles an hour or even higher than that. To find out more about the tornado scale that we use to rate them, as well as what happens when tornadoes are spotted but no damage occurs, head on over to our website, WCIA.com.
Okay, I want you to stop and think about this for a second. First, imagine you're at home, and all of a sudden the skies above are getting dark. The rain is coming down. Suddenly a tornado forms, and you've got to take shelter. Which 5 things are you going to grab before things like that come flying at you? All right, here we go. Your 5 things. Think about it. Your wallet. You're going to want this. It's got your cash, your ID in there, credit cards. Tornado comes, that'll come in handy, or your purse as well. How about a bike helmet, okay? This will protect your head. Flying debris. A lot of deaths occur from blunt force trauma to the head. Have that for you and the kids. Your shoes. You may be saying, why my shoes? Think about it. If there are 2x4 splintered nails all over the place after a tornado hits, you'd rather have these on your feet than barefoot and socks, right? Of course, your cellular phone, so you can call somebody, let them know that a tornado has impacted your house and maybe you need rescuing. Well, what if you need rescuing and the cell phone doesn't work because the cell phone towers are gone? How are you going to notify those first responders that you need help? Right here. How about a whistle? They will hear that. I know you just did. This will come in handy as well if a tornado hits your home. Just some of the 5 things to take before a tornado. Next on Weathering the Storm, learn about how to make a claim if your roof is damaged by hail and what size of hail actually starts causing that damage to your property. But first, can you guess this weather question? How big was the largest officially documented hailstone in Illinois? We'll have the answer after the break. Hail can be dangerous and damaging to property. Meteorologist Adam Sherwinski went to Mahomet to find out what homeowners need to know when looking to get repairs done after a hailstorm hits.
Last year, a storm brought a tornado to Leroy and left our studio flooded. The same storm also brought hail damage to parts of Mahomet. It caused roofs in multiple neighborhoods in need of repair or replacement. Homeowner Michael Tilford was one resident that needed work done to his roof and even his car.
The next day, first thing I looked at was my car that sits outside, and I noticed a number of dents. And then I thought, well, maybe I ought to get the roof checked.
Aaron Collins is with Insurance Providers Group of Mahomet. He recommends a process homeowners should go through.
After a storm moves through, we recommend that homeowners try to do some, quick, safe, self-assessment, kind of take a look at their property.
This can include taking pictures of damaged features around the home and even of hail itself, as long as it's safe to do so. Collins also recommends talking with a reliable contractor and your agent in tandem.
It doesn't matter too much. Sometimes your agent can help direct you on what contractors to work with. But there also is that element of being sure that you actually have a claim before involving your insurance company.
Some of the things adjusters and roofers look for are missing or broken shingles and gutters, leaks, dented vents, and even siding, window, deck, and fence damage. Collins warns homeowners to be aware of what their policy covers.
The other thing we always advise is to not sign any type of contract with a roofing contractor before you've spoken to your agent.
For Tilford, he's glad that he was able to get his roof ready before the colder weather set in.
It's a relief, and I'm glad that I have insurance, and I will, of course, maintain that relationship with my local agent. That's been so important.
All right, now Seth is up for another spin at the weather wheel.
All right, Kevin, let's take a look at which one I end up with here. We got 4 really different types of weather, each which carry their own separate impacts. Let's take a look at which one I end up with, and it looks like it's going to be hail. So hail comes in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. We're going to take a look at those and how each one of those has a different impact. So to start our discussion with hail sizes, we'll begin with the very smallest, which actually don't even require a severe thunderstorm to be seen. And these can come in the size of a pea, mothball, penny, all the way up to the size of a nickel. Now, with these hail sizes, we're typically not worried about damage outside of some small dents and scratches. If we go up the chain, though, now we start to talk about hail that can only be seen in severe thunderstorms. These range in diameter from about 1 to 2 inches. That's about the size of a quarter, ping pong ball, golf ball, all the way up to the size of a hen's egg. Now we're talking about harm to crops, dents to vehicles, damaging of housing, even causing injury. Now up to our rarest, but by far most impactful hail sizes. These come from 2.5 all the way up to 4.5 inches. That's when you can really start to see some damage done. That comes in the size of a tennis ball, baseball, softball, all the way up to a grapefruit. These can shatter windshields, tear up houses, and can potentially even be deadly. It could fall at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. That'd be like taking a fastball from a major league pitcher. Whoa! Now, we have seen hail this size before in the WCIA viewing area, 4.5 inches all the way back in 2003. So that is a visual look at your hail sizes.
Coming up on Weathering the Storm, learn about new features we've launched on our website for you to use, and also what causes lightning to form. But first, can you guess this weather question? In what year did the Midwest experience catastrophic flooding that halted barge traffic on the Mississippi for nearly 2 months? We'll have the answer after the break. Our brand new suite of products you can find online at WCIA.com. It's pretty impressive. Meteorologist Jacob Dickey is going to give you kind of a behind the scenes look at some of the new stuff we have launched.
Do you have a cell phone nearby? Open it up, take your camera and scan that QR code right there. That way you can follow along to see some of our new digital content we've created to provide you better weather information online so you can stay safe and informed ahead of the storm. At the top of our homepage, you can access many new features and the drop-down menu to help you know what the weather is doing right now and in the future. Our WCIA3 Weather Map Room is a great all-in-one place to find current conditions, see up-to-date radar loops, get local forecasts, and even find future track data. If you enjoy Kevin's water tower weather, you can also see every water tower forecast every day on our water tower weather page. From Cooks Mills to Ashcombe and from Niantic to Sidell, we've got your local water tower weather available every day at the click of a button. We also provide new daily forecast updates online with hyperlocal forecasts now available for areas surrounding Champaign-Urbana, Danville, Decatur, Effingham, Mattoon, Charleston, and Springfield. And most importantly, when severe weather threatens, we'll activate the WCIA3 Severe Weather Center as a one-stop shop to find streaming severe weather coverage, get the latest severe weather information, and provide you with resources to prepare for storms before they arrive. Spend a little time on our website, WCIA.com, to see some of these new great resources we've designed for you in mind.
Thanks, Jacob. Well, let's do one last spin at the weather wheel with Adam.
Hey, thanks there, Kevin. Let's give it a spin and see what hazard we land on here. We've got flooding, lightning, tornadoes, and hail as well. Let's see which one we get here with this. It landed on lightning, which means we're going to talk about lightning and lightning safety. When it comes to thunderstorms, those can be dangerous whether they're severe or sub-severe. Lightning is always a hazard with thunderstorms, and you can see this thunderstorm I have right with me. It's not producing any lightning until it starts to make that connection. The change between positive and negative charges, that is what causes lightning to strike. Kind of like static electricity, but on a larger scale. You can see that the tallest things, aside from me, are these trees. That connection is made. You get the change from positive to negative charges. The interchange right there, that's how you get a lightning strike. Sometimes trees are the tallest things, so they get struck pretty quickly. It's easier to make that connection with taller objects. You don't want to be one of those taller objects. Make sure you get indoors when thunder roars.
That wraps up our show for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
As always, you can find out more about all of these stories online at WCIA.com.
Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media pages as well.
And download our weather app so you're prepared before the next storm arrives.
All right, again, thanks for watching. Stay weather aware. Keep an eye to the sky. Have a good night.
This has been Weathering the Storm on WCIA 3. Brought to you by Clay Dooley Tire and Auto, Tatman's Towing, and Bryant Industries.